Okay.
The meeting of the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation Regular Board of Directors meeting for June 18th, 2026 is called to order. I'd like to ask that we take a roll call to establish a quorum.
Today in attendance, we have Chair Gary Mackler and Directors Sean Sasaki, Seth Colby, Scott Glenn, and designee Mary Alice Evan.
Gives us 5. We do have a quorum to conduct business. I see we do have 2 board members who are attending today's meeting remotely. I would like to ask both of you if there's anyone in attendance with you today. Could you please let us know? Maybe Scott.
Chair, I'm alone. Thank you.
Scott and John.
Chair, I am by myself too.
Okay, thank you. As we go through today's agenda, we will invite the public to offer testimony for each of the agenda items, and I would like to ask Rose to come on up and explain the ground rules for giving public testimony.
Mr. Chair. Morning. Welcome to today's board meeting. If you wish to provide testimony on a specific agenda item, please follow these procedures. For those joining us virtually, when the board chair opens the floor for public testimony on an agenda item of interest, please click the raise hand icon on the Zoom toolbar. This will place you in the queue to speak. Those in the room, please raise your hand. Testifiers will be recognized in the order received during the designated agenda item. When called upon to testify, please state your first and last name and the name of the organization you represent. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per person for each agenda item. Please ensure your remarks remain focused on the subject under consideration. When you reach the 3-minute mark, a verbal time notification will be given. Please conclude your remarks at that point to ensure we stay on schedule for all speakers. While this time is specifically designated for public comment to ensure all voices are heard, the board will not engage in direct dialogue. However, please be assured that your comments are being recorded and will be thoroughly reviewed by all members. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, Rose. Before we start on the agenda, just a moment of personal privilege. I want to just take a moment to acknowledge our former director, Jason Bradshaw, who has moved on to another state board. Jason served almost a full term, and working with him, I can tell you he was always willing to step up and help this board and help the corporation any way he could. So I want to thank him for his service. Let's go on to section 2 of the agenda. This is the approval of minutes for the regular board meeting of May 14th, 2026.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to section 3 of the agenda, this is discussion and or decision making. Item A, this is to adopt the approved and rejected list for the rental housing revolving fund project awards for the fiscal year 2026 funding round. Why don't you go ahead and present, and then I'll take public testimony up.
Good morning, Chair, Vice
Oh,
Chair.
I'm sorry, before you go, I
Okay.
need to ask for a motion on this agenda item. Is there a motion to approve? We have a
Second.
and a second. Okay,
Thank you.
makes sense.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Haley Zhao, the Housing Finance Specialist with the Finance Branch. Also joined me is our team member, Jessica Patterson, Ryan Morita, and Jay Nakamura. Staff respectfully request the board's consideration and adoption of the approved and reject list for the rental housing revolving fund project awards for the fiscal year 2026 funding round. This year, HHFDC received 31 RHF applications for 26 unique projects, totaling $958 million. Projects were received from most counties statewide, including 3 in Maui, 2 in Kauai, 8 in Big Island, and 13 in Oahu. As of May 31st, 2026, the adjusted estimated RHRF net available cash balance is $131,189,744. Details of this are described under section 3E or 2E of the full action and are inclusive of all appropriated and allotted RHF cash infusions. The finance and the development branches at HHFDC collectively reviewed all applications. Staff then evaluated and scored each project in accordance with the criteria in those areas. 1, local housing need. 2, project description and design. 3, benefits and impact. 4, project management. And 5, financial leverage. Details on the criteria point system can be found under Hawaii Administrative Rules, Title 15, Chapter 311. Minimum scores of 125 points out of the total 250 points is required to be placed on the RHRF approved list. All applications this year met this requirement and were therefore placed on the approved list and attached as Exhibit A of this full action. RHRF also has statutory funding priorities to HRS 201H-202. The first priority list is inserted under 3G of the full action and comprises 11 projects. The second priority list is inserted under 3H of the full action and comprises 20 projects. Separate full actions shall be presented to the HHFDC board for project-specific awards following the approval of this RHRF approved list. The RHRF approved project list for fiscal year 2026 will remain in effect until HHFDC closes the fiscal year 2026 funding round, or when a new approved project list is approved, whichever comes first. With this, staff requests HHFDC board approval of the following. A, the fiscal year 2026 funding round approved project list for RHRF project awards, subject to the following 8 provisions and conditions. 1, approval of the RHRF approved project list does not obligate HHFDC to make an award to any applicant on this list. 2, applicants on the RHRF approved project list shall not construe approval as an indication or guarantee of receiving an award or any other funding from HHFDC. 3, HHFDC may elect to select, reject, or defer any applicant's request if HHFDC judges such action to be in the best interest of the RHRF program. 4, all awards are subject to the availability of RHRF program funds. 5, HHFDC is not obligated to approve or fund the full amount of any applicant's request. 6, the actual form, terms, and conditions of each award shall be determined by HHFDC and is subject to negotiation between the applicant and HHFDC. The accuracy and completeness of all appropriate legal documentation shall be subject to the review and approval of HHFDC and its legal counsel. 7, the approval of each award and the disbursement of funds is subject to the final approval by the governor of the state of Hawaii And 8, applicants agree to abide by all terms and conditions that may arise due to the use of a public funds. B, authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purpose of this for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Is there anyone in the public who would like to give testimony for this agenda item? Okay, if not, directors, open it up for questions for staff.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Try anything. Okay, so first of all, in terms of this, have you guys, I know I'm a new board member, so have you guys briefed the board on the scoring criteria in depth? And also, have you looked at how the scoring actually correlates to output of certain housing projects?
Yeah, that's brief board in depth on the scoring. And this is, just to clear, this is not a scoring of the project, this is whether or not they meet a minimum threshold to be on the list, be eligible for funding.
Okay, so
That's what this for action is for.
yeah, but we scored these projects for the rental housing revolving fund.
Yeah, so that comes into play for what's called 4% projects.
Yeah.
Where basically are scored on bonds and rental housing revolving fund.
Okay, so in your guys' opinion, what is the most important score that we offer? And like, every time we create a scoring sheet, we're incentivizing developers to conform and submit certain projects. And I want to understand is like at what point, as a board member, I would appreciate being briefed on what are the end-up scores and how that influences people's applications.
We certainly can do that.
Okay, so is that best for this scoring or should we look at another scoring metric? Cause it sounds like there's different scoring. There's the scoring, there's a scoring for whether we approve or disapprove a project, I guess. There's no scoring there.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Remember, I think this is a screening phase
Yeah.
for minimum qualifications. So, and then there's a second element of that, which is first priority and all other. So everybody, all the projects met the minimum qualifications.
Okay.
They're all on, all 31 are before us for our approval of the list. And then there's the ones that met the higher criteria of a HUD or USDA financing commitment, then made the list that you see first priority. And I'm assuming that means that they would be ones that would also score high finance criteria, which is criteria number 12, financial leverage.
So when I see the points, the total points, that's this criteria or is that another criteria? Okay, but it's in this in the next page, we also have a point score, right? The points received. So those points received are for these criteria that we're putting in or that for another criteria?
Do you want to explain?
Thanks for the question, Director Colby. So for the RHRF program, it has its own scoring criteria, which can be found in Title 15-311, which is the administrative rules that oversee the program. And in there's an exhibit A that has real specific scoring criteria that we use to determine whether they met the 125 out of 450 point threshold. Those scores are also used and considered when we're making awards for 4% projects. So for the 9% LIHTC though, we defer to the LIHTC scoring, which is found in the QAP. So that's another set of criteria that actually was vetted by the board and approved, I think back in September of this year's use. So it is two separate scoring criteria. So if you wanted to see, say, you were talking about the weighting and stuff, we can analyze that for you to see which points, or which criteria have yields the most points. We can give you that. We have that information, but that's already set in the administrative rules, so we cannot change that. We'd have to amend the administrative rules if you wanted to alter that in any way.
So but the administrative rules is not statute. That's like something that the board has control over, or is that something?
There's a process to amend the
Yeah.
administrative rules, but has to conform to statute though.
Right. Okay, yeah, I just think it'd be, I mean, for me as a board member, and maybe for the other people, especially if it hasn't briefed, I'd like to understand what we're really incentivizing, and encouraging developers to do, right? Good students study for the test, they don't study for general knowledge, you know, and I'm sure that people are very good at studying for this test and submitting there, so, just for our information and understanding like the types of projects that we're really encouraging developers to submit to us, it'd be very useful for me.
When the points under the QAP, which can be amended to 2 years, 1 year.
Every 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, and those come before the board. Developers do show up at the meeting and they make their best arguments for either opposing or agreeing to the point shifts that change the incentives for them based on what their strengths are as a developer, how they think they would score for future applications. So it's a process that includes not just the board members, but the developers and general public.
Oh, great, we want as much input as possible.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have the other question. So, you know, we've gone for tier 1 and tier 2, exhibit E and H. So can you explain to me how we divide up that tier?
But 3G and 3H, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the priority. The first priority is the projects already received federal subsidy, such as a HUD financing or USDA financing. Those are reviewed and confirmed. So because they received all those fundings from federal, we put them into a first priority. And all the other project list, the 20 list on the second one, they didn't receive any federal subsidy yet. They are applying for the light tech. So once the board approved the the list to put on the light tech, then they'll be putting first priority.
Okay, so most of these houses are subject to section 8. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you can see, it's a section vouchers or NAHASTA.
And all of the projects in Schedule H are also available for that, they just haven't
No,
applied
this for light tech,
just for light
yeah.
tech. Okay, so there's section 8 and the light tech.
Yes.
And section 8 is a voucher for housing. How does that correlate to light tech?
For light tech, so can we defer that question to the
That's about section 8.
Yeah, so
Vouchers and.
Yeah. So just the vouchers in general, the project-based ones, if they get an assignment of that to a project, it helps the developers of the projects leverage that and finance, afford to finance more during the permanent stage of their development, which allows us to reduce the amount of gap financing needed. That's why it's an incentivized thing that we like to see. Just using vouchers in general, that cannot be used for finance. It has to be a project-based finance. And that comes from the respective counties.
yeah, so in just so making it really simple for me, section 8 vouchers are essentially guarantees from the government that allow people to pay for their rent, right? And so it makes our creditors and the developers feel better
If they're project based.
if they're project based. And what's the difference between project based and individual based
So they're actually assigned to a specific project
projects?
as opposed to the individual seeking out occupancy. So that ensures that the project, if they have a certain amount, 10% or so many units, they can rely on that enhancement for their cash flow and operation, and they use that to secure more financing.
Yeah, part of that enhancement is that HUD allows charging of what they determine as contract rents, which is a higher income stream than what the affordable rent might be. So it actually enhances the revenue stream.
Okay, so
for the
like
project.
in the next couple projects, we see like, rents at $1,600. So the Section 8 housing would come in and they would be able to offer more than $1,600.
That really helps the developers with long-term operation.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, directors, on this agenda item? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I don't think we need them.
We did. Forgot, but then I can't.
I think you made them.
Recover.
Oh, so we made the motion before we call.
Any opposed? I don't think there is. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, next we go on to agenda item 3B. This is to approve an award of federal and state low-income housing tax credits from the state's 2026 volume cap to one Hona Phase 3 located in Wailuku, Maui, TMK numbers 23-5-004. 119 to 127 and 130 to 142 and 614 Wailepo located in Kailua, Oahu, TMK number 4-3-0590 or 095. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
We have a second, thank you. Are you presenting again? Why don't you go ahead and present it and then I'll take testimony after.
Okay, so good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Jessica Patterson, Housing Finance Specialist with the Finance Branch. Here to present a request to approve awards of federal and state low-income housing tax credits from the state's 2026 volume cap to Hona Phase 3 located in Wailuku, Maui, and 614 Wailepo located in Kailua, Oahu. Before I begin, I would like to amend the for action. In section 4, the recommendation section. A1 and B1. We would like to add an additional condition. So there's a bullet point A, and we would like to add on B. If applicable, provide the finalized chapter 343 exemption determination and the SHPD 6E clearance letter by the earlier of 1 year from award or as required by the closing schedule. Okay. So LIHTC volume cap, also known as 9% LIHTC, are federal and state tax credits designed to encourage the construction and rehabilitation of affordable rental housing. It is referred to as competitive or allocated credit and is subject to the program requirements under Internal Revenue Code Section 42 and guided by a qualified allocation plan, also referred to as QAP. On October 2nd, 2025, the HHFDC board approved the 2026 QAP, which includes criteria that are used in evaluating and allocating LIHTC resources for the current funding rounds. Total 9% LIHTC available for 2026 is $7,383,369. This includes allocations for 2026 from the IRS and any unused credits or return credits from 2025. Details for this are shown under section 2G of the for action. On February 20th, 2026, HHFDC received 8 applications for 9% LIHTC, totaling $12,956,202. These applicants can be found under Section 2H of the FOR action. The finance and development branches at HHFDC collectively reviewed and evaluated all applications to verify the minimum threshold requirements and scored each utilizing the criteria point system detailed in Section 3D of the 2026 QAP. A table summarizing the results is included under Section 3E of the FOR action. Based on the results, Pu'uhana Phase 3 scored 3rd overall, and 614 Wailepo scored 2nd overall, and were subsequently reviewed for completeness, readiness, and further evaluated for potential areas of savings and efficiencies. This collaborative effort resulted in the reduction of requested resources for both 9% LIHTC and RHRF. For Pu'uhana Phase 3, the project requested $1.275 million of 9% LIHTC, which was subsequently reduced to $1.175 million. There was no request for RHRF with this application, and total development costs were reduced from $19.6 million to $19.1 million. 614 Wailepo, the project requested for $2.15 million in 9% LIHTC and $6.8 million in RHRF. The RHRF request was subsequently reduced to $5.1 million, along with a corresponding reduction in total development costs of $38.7 million to $37.1 million. So for more project specifics, we would like to call upon the applicant representatives that have prepared visual presentations on their respective views. So on the Phase 3, we have Jack Dowling from the Dowling Company, Liz Char from Housing Partners LLC, and Kalani Fronda from DHHL.
Good morning.
Morning,
Floor is yours.
good morning, Chair, Executive Director, Board members, and HHFDC staff. Thank you for the time and consideration of Pu'uhana Phase 3. My name is Jack Dowling, here on behalf of the applicant DDC 1A LLC. I'm joined today by Liz Char of Housing Partners LLC, as well as Kalani Fronda, Acting Administrator with the Department of Line Homelands. Kalani, you want to?
Sure. Aloha, Chair and Executive Director and Board, as well as staff. Thank you for the opportunity to share this project. Before we start, I just want to share that the department is really accelerating on our program, mainly to reduce the wait list and be able to provide housing for our beneficiaries. So on the island of Maui, we have about 1,100 project leases that we've issued out. We have a bunch of projects that are happening in Central as well as South and West Maui. In this particular area in Waikapu, we have about 365 lots that we're building over 2 projects. And this is one of them, Pu'uhana, and I'll turn it back over to Jack to go into the details of this submittal.
Thank you. So just briefly to give you your bearings on a project, on the second page, Pu'uhana is located in Waikapu, about 1.5 miles away from Wailuku town, in close proximity to major healthcare providers, daily needs, business centers and schools. And the project site is approximately 4 acres for phase 3, and it sits within the broader 47-acre Pu'uhona homestead, which is comprised of 161 lots. So on page 3, this just gives you a sense of the project boundaries. Pu'uhona homestead sits alongside the highway leading from central Maui to west and south Maui. It's immediately below Wailuku Heights and south of Kealani. And the 22 lots that phase 3 is comprised of are highlighted here in yellow. On average, they're about 7,500 square feet. Will consist of 2 to 4 bedroom homes between 1,200 to 2,100 square feet. Garages, fenced yards, landscaping, and appliances, among other things. Those 22 lots are surrounded by 137 turnkey homes that are actively being built today. That's phase 1 and phase 2. Currently, about 57 of those are closed, and we anticipate having all of them completed in November. The reason I bring that up is as we were going through the lot offering process, one of the things we found during our surveys of the beneficiaries is approximately 30% of them were at 60% AMI household income or below. And within that segment, a number of them couldn't qualify for mortgages based on debt to income ratios, household debt to income ratios, poor credit, and some other financial considerations. So we view Pu'uhona phase 3 as an alternative pathway to provide immediate affordable rental housing in quality single-family homes while we work to help build their financial qualifications and transition to homeownership. Next page. So as I mentioned, we're underway on Pu'uhona phase 1, phase 2. This is a project aerial that was taken a little over a month ago. Phase 3, I can't show my cursor, but it's on the top left portion of this aerial. So the idea would be for us to work towards financial closing so that as we complete phase 2 of the turnkey homes in end of this year, November of this year, we can shortly thereafter begin construction on phase 3. As mentioned earlier, Pu'uhona is 22 homes. They'll range from affordability targeted to 30% to 60% AMI households. Project budget is $19.1 million, which will predominantly be comprised of LIHTC investor equity and senior financing, but also a substantial amount of both county and state financial support. So the Department of Hawaiian Homelands is providing a $2 million most subordinate loan, and the County of Maui, via their Affordable Housing Fund, just voted into their budget last week, $1.8 million in junior debt. So in terms of project status, just to provide a high-level overview, sorry, this is page 7. Site control was obtained in February of 2020. We've completed our environmental assessment, final subdivision approval. The site work for the entire homestead was completed in July of 2025, meaning all infrastructure is in place, building pads are ready for vertical construction, and utilities are stubbed at the lots for Pu'uhona phase 3, as well as the broader homestead. We are working with the county on ministerial permits, but outside of that, there are no additional discretionary administrative approvals needed to proceed. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Finally, in terms of project sponsorship, this is a partnership between DDC1 LLC, which is a subsidiary of Dowling Company. We are a Maui-based development firm that focuses on affordable housing on Maui, and the co-VP here is Hawaii Assisted Housing Inc., Hawaii-based nonprofit that specializes in low-income housing. Collectively, each organization has been doing residential development in the state for over 30 years and delivered over 1,000 affordable housing units. and obviously under the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's partnership. And finally, these are just some renderings to give you a flavor for the product. This is our 2-bedroom Lulehua, 3-bedroom Alima, and our 4-bedroom Lehua in Mokihano. And that's it. I'm sensitive to y'all's time, so.
Thank you for the presentation. Like at this time to see if anyone in the public would like to offer testimony for this agenda item. Any hands up? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open it up for directors to, if you have questions for. Go
Thank you,
right
Chair.
ahead.
Either on Jack or Kwame, is there a possibility of already for those, units?
Yes, there is. So after the end of the 15-year compliance period, there'll be a purchase option for the beneficiaries that would be renting during that compliance period.
Will their rental payments contribute to the final purchase of?
That is the intent. That is the intent, and the affordability will be priced at the income bracket designated for those units. So between 30 to 60% AMI.
I don't see any Nahasta. Is that actually the 2 million for the junior loan?
I believe that is, so we've been strategically utilizing our NAHASDA funding. Some of it we've been using towards mortgage financing, but strategically we're looking at financing and really identifying a lot of our with option to purchase LIHTC projects. So we have several of them throughout the state that we've been forward on. And all of these we've been able to address 2 things. One is providing the opportunity for future purchase, working with them on really building their credit so they can be ready. And second is assuring them with a project lease that provides them an opportunity in the event that something happens, they can pass it on to a successor that's qualified.
Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else?
I have a couple questions for you guys. So what do you anticipate the demand for? The demand outstrip the. I mean, there's 22 houses, right? So what's the demand like for these units?
I can speak to that. Give a couple touch points. So in the 2020 beneficiary survey that DHL conducted, on Maui, approximately 57% beneficiaries prefer turnkey homes. And Central Maui was by far and away the preferred destination for those turnkey homes. When we conducted our phase 1, phase 2 lot orientation, the pretty much by the second offering, there were 300 people that we had invited that we didn't have an opportunity to select a home because the 137 homes were fully spoken for at that time. But that's a different income bracket that we're targeting here. Here it's really 60% AMI households and below, and we believe that without NAHASDA financing, which provides 1% mortgage financing for beneficiaries, this is the next best alternative pathway to be able to provide and address that housing demand. We also conducted a third-party market study that supported the demand for these 22 homes.
Did you guys consider at all, multifamily units, duplexes, something that in order to like increase the number of units that were available into projects?
We're doing that strategically. So right now we're programming that along TOD. We're also taking a look at areas that are close to healthcare facilities, primarily for those kupuna age. Those are the beneficiaries that desire that type of product. And also speaking to, you're asking about the interest and being able to fill these. There was, I want to say, we had a number of different beneficiaries that had gone through their pre-qualifications on 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and was able to qualify through the NAHASDA funding. But we didn't have enough units, and that was part of what they had identified, that particular group of people that would be interested and qualified for that area. What we're doing as a department now is, this is the first of the Act 279 funds that we're using, but it's also the last of the type of program that we're doing. So before we used to build and then have them qualify, now we're going through giving them a project lease and then working with them doing financial assessments to program the vertical development based upon what they can qualify. So this gives us a very active number of the type of beneficiaries that would fit in this type of project. So that's what we're doing with the 8,000 lots that were being developed statewide.
But so is there not, so there's not demand for like duplexes that would be 3 or 4 bedroom duplexes? I'm just trying to think about, we have this tremendous housing need, right? And like part of the solution is to put as many houses, provide units for people in a limited amount of space on these islands. And so, what was the consideration for standalone single family homes, which are great, versus duplexes, multifamily units where they share construction costs and can provide more units or space at a lower construction cost?
I'll provide a quick response to that and I'll turn it over to Jack. The desire by, of course, the beneficiaries are 5-acre lots and 5,000 square foot houses, but that's not possible. And so we are taking a look at really the densities. And so more of the denser projects are in the urban areas. Specifically on the island of Oahu, with our wait list being so large, this was really the areas that we would be able to identify. Case in point is we're working with a developer out in Mo'iliili. That's the first time we've ever done a product like that. And then the others that we're looking at is, once again, are along the TOD, which fits in line with the initiatives that the TOD Council has been discussing and programming. So that's along Kapolei, and then once again, you'll see it close to or near healthcare facilities. So that's kind of what we've been programming. There hasn't been too much of a desire in areas that are such as here. It's rural, but still central. And I'll turn it over to Jack. He has really a pulse of the island of Maui as well.
Only thing I would add is this project the broader homestead has been underway from both a planning and design standpoint since 2020. So we received our subdivision approval in 2023, which was for all 161 lots. And so from the standpoint of not impacting the shovel readiness of the project, we view this as kind of the best path forward for Pu'uhona in particular, but certainly point well taken as it relates to future homesteads, of which I didn't mention earlier, but there's 204 lots immediately Mauka and adjacent to this site. So that's something that we're always cognizant of.
So just to if I understand your point, it's like we approved the zoning and it's very hard to change these projects. If something is approved in 2020 for single family homes, and like, let's say you guys had the idea, it's like, oh, could we put some more homes on there? Just because things were set in motion 2020 with zoning and everything, in order to like amend those, that would be very difficult.
You want
to give an example?
you take that one, you're the closest.
So there's areas that we've gone through that subdivision process. I know there was some situation that we had identified because of the topography and some of the issues that we're dealing with. We needed to create, I would say, more opportunities because we had issued out project leases already for that. So we have a captive audience for that area. Because of some of the reduction of land, we had to look at the possibility of doing some multifamily. So there's probably, I want to say about 8 units or so that we're looking at that. But those are, separate cases. Strategically, we are looking at what is being developed around there. What we don't want to do is build it once again, and our beneficiaries are not interested in occupying it. Now we're sitting with vacant units. So we're doing a lot of, I want to say, beneficiary consultation in regards to how the type of products that we're developing. But it is something that is in our program that we're looking at, once again, specifically for those areas that have a high wait list, such as Oahu.
And then just final question, there are some market rate housing developments going into in this development, right?
There are some, there are some non-income restricted.
Yeah.
But they're all priced at workforce levels. So to give you a sense, the turnkey homes, the 137, the 2-bedroom is priced at roughly 411,000. And the 4 bedrooms are anywhere between 640 to 662,000. So they're all within workforce levels based on HHFDC's County of Maui standards. Now, they're immediately across Kulikaki Drive is Kealani, and Kealani, similar product in many senses, and that's all market rate product.
How much is the market rate product?
Right now, the median is 1.3.
In other words, a deal.
Director Evans.
Yeah, I had a question about, so as you know, state is looking at how to expedite the regulatory process for housing. And DHHL has some unique authorities that allow it to, I wouldn't say waive, but simply make a decision whether to use that authority. In this project, did you, I hear you went through the subdivision process. Were there any other county or state regulatory hurdles that you decided to exercise DHHL's unique authority?
For this project.
I was hoping to learn from.
Well, we are, there are areas where we strategically do that. We do need the various county services. And so going through that process is also a strategic approach for us. There are areas that we've addressed, I want to say on the island of Maui, where we did utilize some emergency proclamation opportunities. And then other areas where it's very rural, county doesn't provide services, we've done our own permitting process. Kahikinui is an area that we've been able to staff.
Thank you both. This time I have another pleasant to read. Are you folks gonna come up with the first before?
So the next project that we'll be presenting is 614 Wailepo. I have here in person Joelle Chiu, and online is Sarah DeVries from HHFDC Group.
Yeah.
With the orange one. Yes. Morning, Joelle.
Morning, good morning, Chair, Directors, staff. I'm Joelle Chu, a Senior Development Director at the HHFDC Group. Online, we have Sarah DeVries, also my colleague, another Senior Development Director. Makani sends her apologies. She is out of the country. She had both a high school and a college graduate, and so she's on summer holiday with her family. So you got Sarah and myself. We're here today to ask for your consideration of 614 Wailepo. I'm sorry, I did not bring a handout for each of you, but I'll remember, put that on my list to bring next time. Quick introduction of ourselves. You know, we are primarily a group of women based in Kailua. We are very active. We currently have 24 properties, over 1,800 units, you know, and housing over 4,500 people. We are, let's see, just starting, we just finished on the island of Kauai, both Lima Ola, senior and family, and Iolino. As you know, we're charging forward and getting through a fire there on at Iolino, and we expect actually to have those done at July 15th. We will get occupancy. So we also have just started 100 units. with the, partnership of the HHFDC at Kuakini Heights on the Hawaii Island. We broke ground and are well underway there. With regard to this project, 614 Wailepo is in Kailua. We have the first LIHTC affordable housing project in Kailua in decades. We are scheduled to deliver those units at the end of this quarter. That one is 330 Kulule. Kailua happens to be my hometown and Makani's hometown. We raise our families there, and we're very excited to provide these affordable opportunities for people who also want to live and work in Kailua, which a Civil Beat article this just recently said it's a very expensive place to live. So this is the location. As you drive into Kailua from the Pali Highway, it's on your left-hand side, just near the marsh. But this is probably this is a better picture probably. You see, you drive in, it's on the left-hand side there, but it's really just adjacent to all of the services. Really centrally located near grocery stores, banks. It's sort of on the edge of a single family community, but Wailepo Street itself does have a higher density multifamily. No regulated affordable, but I would say if anything, that's probably the de facto affordable housing area of Kailua. Again, conveniently located. We received city and county funding in March of 2023 in the form of a performance mortgage. So that requires us to build affordable housing. So since 2023, the last 6 years, we have been investing our time and equity into this. The project came when we bought it. It actually was we bought the land. The project was actually set up as a market rate multifamily. It was going to be for sale condos, and unfortunately, the patriarch of a family passed, and his children and wife did not understand or want to continue on. So our broker brought this to us. Since then it came with a couple of deserted buildings on it where homeless were sort of in there. And so we took it upon ourselves to get a demolition permit and demolish the structures that were on site, because I think it wasn't, was not a safe place to put it. Since then we have been it's been vacant land, and we've been going forward with the design, working with DPI and working on the design of the project. So new construction, it's family. These are all of the details of it. We are going to go all the way from 30% AMIs up through 60% AMIs. And you can see the rental rates there. We have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. So 38 units, one being the manager's unit. So 37 units available for the community. We know that we stay away from studios, especially in a community like this where it's primarily families. We find that it's difficult. People don't desire studios. They're a little harder to rent. So we're really stuck to 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms here. We, are excited about the potential. We've been working again. We have, I think Jessica asked us to update the status of the permitting process. And as you all know, permitting takes a bit. We have approval for structural, electrical, and mechanical. We're on the verge of getting the building code approval. We also have the civil was sent for signature on June 4th. So we expect that the civil will be signed off on, and that will allow us to get grading permits and trenching permits. So you can't get one until you have the other. So we're really on the verge of it. Any day now, we're going to get these permits. So we say Q3 of 2026. And as soon as we can get those, of course, we can begin construction. If you know anything about McHoney and the Ahe group, we are a very impatient group. And so we expect to complete our construction in the first quarter of 20. We do have 4 units set aside. We work with Family Promise and we have been working with them successfully on Kauai actually, for quite some time now. We're moving that over here to Oahu. We're gonna do it at our other Kailua project and here where we work and we have a very good property management team and a property and an asset manager who really understands the system. And they work through the coordinated entry system, I think it's called, and connect families to services. Yeah, let's see. I think that's that. Here's another rendering, because I know everybody likes a good, pretty picture. And any questions, you can email McHoney or myself. And thank you.
We might have a question or two now.
Absolutely.
Director Evans.
So this is a generally single family area. If I recall, there was some concern around higher density apartment building. And one of the issues I think is, are you planning enough parking? Site?
Yes, this, we actually don't have to have, let's see.
I know you don't have to.
No, but we do this one, unlike some of our other, this one has, I believe, let's see. Sarah, do you know off the top of your head?
I believe it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, it's a 1-to-1 ratio at this project. This is actually on the border though of single, it's not necessarily between single family homes, and that entire street is full of multifamily apartments. In fact, a couple down, 1 or 2 lots down is a market rate project that's probably about the same size as this one.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have some questions. So, the previous project that we reviewed was for single family homes. And it had a per unit basis, I believe, 876, something like that. And this current one has per unit, looking at the figures correctly, is 976. Now, if you throw in the GET exemption for construction, this puts each single, for a lot of 1-bedroom units, over $1 million per unit. So what accounts for these costs?
There, can you help me out in this with regard to the land acquisition?
Yes, so one part of the source and use that you're seeing is you're seeing an expense for the land, but you're also seeing an offsetting source that's coming from our grant from city and county, that performance mortgage Joelle alluded to. So really, we have to show it that way in the source and use because those are project costs, that is a project expense, but really it nets out, it should be netted out, and there's no acquisition cost to the project. If that helps make sense. So another way we could have shown it was no cost to the project and no corresponding use, right? Or source. We showed it this way because it's important to demonstrate that we have that city and county support for the project, for the scoring. So I think one thing that could be done to right size those numbers is to do it net of the acquisition cost.
Net of the acquisition cost of the land.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, is this just because we're doing it in Kailua? Like, my concern is we have limited amounts of state resources and we have a massive amount of, we need to support housing, right? And public money is sacred. So we're diverting LIHTC money, and in the next agenda item, you're asking us to approve the RHTF, rental housing revolving fund for $1 million apartments, when in Maui, we can provide projects for like single family homes, right? So
Well, I think
to be perfectly frank, I'd like really a much more specific breakdown of the construction costs and all these costs. So construction is like, I understand a very large portion of this, but I'd like to understand these numbers more before I go forward with, you know, the light tech, I understand is these are the rankings, but we're also putting into the rental housing revolving fund. And before I proceed as DNF director, these numbers are they get a lot of attention. So if we could have a separate briefing or something about the costs associated with this and what is really driving these issues, and because these resources are sacred, and if we can provide housing in cheaper, Kaneohe, and this is just about Kailua, then I'd like to understand that. And we can have that debate of whether we need to have housing in Kailua. This is about construction costs and this unique aspect of construction. I'd like to have that discussion as well.
We do think that it's very important to provide, you know, to not concentrate affordable housing in certain, neighborhoods. We've actually had that, comment before, like, well, if you don't want us to build it, in this particular location, where do you want us to build it? Well, you should build it in Kaneohe. You should build it in, Kalihi. And, we're actually a little offended by that, because, we do think that people should have an opportunity to live and work in Kailua, so I understand that. And I do think if you take out the land acquisition cost, that's, $140 per square foot, that adds to it, that makes a difference. And like Sarah's saying, you can't show the city's participation without adding it as a source and a use, and then you have to then, add it into the per unit cost. So we kind of went around about this, and had this discussion. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it does.
And I want to be very clear, like, I am all for, workforce housing in the areas that we need it, right? This is an argument about how to decide the use of scarce resources, right? Because we are providing a large subsidy to people who really need this housing. And, if you look at the numbers right on top, I don't think the state's getting a lot of bang.
So, excuse me, this is Sarah DeVries. I'd just like to say a couple things. One, I think that this isn't a location-driven issue with respect to the cost. So I think that what Joel said is important, and it's important to understand. I think comparing us to the project that was previously presented really are it's like comparing an apple and a dragon fruit. Like, they're just completely separate projects. One thing important to note is that the 9% credit was created by the federal government specifically separate to allocate towards small infill redevelopment projects, which is exactly what the 614 Wailepo bill fits. Now, the point of these smaller projects getting that benefit of the 9% is because smaller projects do cost more to build, right? We don't have some of the luxury of the density that creates the economies of scale that the larger projects create. And because the 9% program was specifically designed to provide that additional benefit to those smaller projects, those are the types of projects that come through in the 9% project or 9% allocations. And that's what you will see. You will see the big density and the big economies of scale in your 4% bond allocations, which is specifically the type of program designed for those larger projects. So I think what you're seeing here is more about the size of the projects, which is right-sized for this funding source. And I think that it is a product of seeing those additional land costs, which if you strip them out, I think your numbers are different. And then comparing to the project that was previously presented, which is really skews the scale as well. I think if we looked and compared 9% awards over the last 5 or 6 years, in this round even, you would start to see more patterns that are a little closer. So I think that's some food for thought in that discussion. I think it has less to do with location, although, the point is made.
You have a motion on the floor. Are you asking for any amendments to the motion?
You know, I would ask. In order to, I would ask for them to come back and really have a closer breakdown of this project, cost of this project.
So, do you want to make an amendment? The main motion? Be the time.
Okay, so
There's a second to that.
my amendment would be for us to have a follow-up discussion where we have a look down cost and we understand the cost
For this specific.
for this specific project and how they relate to other comparable projects and why is this above average?
That's the second item to the amendment.
Limit, is there a discussion on the is there discussion on the amendment that's been put on the floor? Yeah, seconded. Correct. If no discussion, I'll call for the question on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Chair, could I ask for just a clarification of the amendment?
Yes.
So the amendment is to just pull out this project for a follow-up discussion, and the previous project would still be the original motion.
It would.
Okay. Thank you.
So again, you have a raise, well, I'm gonna hold off on that. So since we're on the vote for the motion, the three of us have not yet cast a vote on the amendment. So again, all those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
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 Directors, okay, so that is five, that amendment is approved. So what that means for your project is it will be deferred to the July board meeting, is that July 13th? Okay. So we'll go back to the motion. And by the way, if between now and July, need further clarification from staff, please reach out to staff or as first to facilitate your request. So we'll go back to the main motion. All those in favor of the main motion?
As amended.
As amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that's 5 votes affirmatively, so that motion is carried. So what we'll do, given the deferral of that project, we'll also defer the next agenda item for revolving fund. Oh, Scott, you're okay. That's good.
Yes.
And so we're gonna defer 3C, and then we're gonna move on next to agenda item 3D, which is to approve the.
Chair.
Excuse me.
Chair, sorry, pardon the interruption. I just wanted to, if I may, follow up on the point that Director Colby raised in terms of like the next meeting and prep for that. In the cost breakout of these tables, I think what I heard Director Colby focusing in on is that space between total construction and total development cost, and then how that compares across project types and islands.
Okay.
And if we could get a little bit more insight into that as board members, either as an info briefing on the agenda or some other type of background material, but helping us understand the step where for one project, construction cost is 75% of the budget and another 60% of the budget. And I think what Director Colby's trying to drive at is, bringing down those dollars as much as possible and having the total development cost be as close to the construction cost ideally as we can get, as a form of trying to be really judicious with our state tax dollars.
Thank you, Director Glenn. I think we're gonna, at this time, move on to item 3D, which is to approve the commencement of the fiscal year 2027 application cycle for the rental housing revolving fund mixed income rental project pilot program. That's for a motion.
So moved.
Second, we have a second.
Second.
We have a second, okay. At this time, I'm going to take public testimony for the agenda item presented. Is there anyone who would like to offer testimony? Anyone in the public? Seeing none, we'll turn it over to staff. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Mackler and members of the board. I'm Tina Morita, and on behalf of Michael Doyle, Finance Branch Manager, I'm presenting for action to have the Board of Directors approve. To have the Board of Directors approve the commencement of the fiscal year 2027 application cycle for the Rental Housing Revolving Fund Mixed Income Rental Project Pilot Program, or MIRP. Just to establish some background for this program, Act 159, Session Laws of Hawaii 2025 established a mixed income sub-account within the Rental Housing Revolving Fund for a 5-year period to finance mixed income rental projects for qualified residents, including projects located in transit-oriented development areas. Act 250, Session Laws of Hawaii 2025 appropriated $50 million in fiscal year 2026 and $50 million in fiscal year 2027, subject to allotment for the MIRP program. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 201H-202F requires HHFDC to establish a separate application process for the allocation of funds in the mixed income sub-account and separate from the standard RHF allocation process for LIHTC projects. The statute requires that preference be given to projects that provide a diverse range of affordability, prioritize households up to 140% of median family income, are located on state or county land, or developed in partnership with the state or counties, efficiently use state funding, and satisfy transit's supportive density requirements where applicable. Staff has prepared an MIRP program overview attached as Exhibit B, which sets forth the proposed program requirements, minimum thresholds, preference criteria, application procedures, and required exhibits for the fiscal year 2027 MIRP program. The MIRP program is structured as a pilot program. HHFDC will administer the program through a rolling application process beginning on July 1st, 2026 and closing on December 31st, 2026, unless otherwise modified by HHFDC. The maximum MIRP funding request for any individual project is generally limited to $25 million. And HHFDC anticipates funding no more than 4 projects during the pilot round, subject to availability of funds, application quality, underwriting considerations, and of course, board approval. Eligible projects will be limited to new construction projects that create new residential rental housing units or rehabilitation or adaptive use or adaptive reuse of existing structures not currently used for housing that will result in the creation of new residential rental housing units. Applications will be reviewed through a 3-step process. First, HHFDC will conduct a minimum threshold review to determine whether the application is substantially complete and satisfies the pass-fail requirements. Second, applications satisfying the minimum thresholds will be evaluated under the preference evaluation criteria. The preference score will establish the order of priority for funding consideration during the rolling application period. Third, applications prioritized for funding consideration will undergo underwriting review before any recommendation is made to the board. The application process will begin with a letter of intent to apply, a self-scoring sheet based on the preference evaluation criteria, and payment of the RHF application fee. Applicants to satisfy the LOI requirements will receive access to Procorum, HHFDC's online portal, to submit the MIRP consolidated application and required exhibits. Applications will be accepted through Procorum until 12 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time on December 31st, 2026,
unless otherwise modified by HHFDC. Applications that meet the pass-fail minimum threshold requirements will be scored using the 10-point preference evaluation criteria. Those criteria include depth of affordability, length of affordability, state or county land and governmental support, efficient use of state resources, sponsor equity, loan structure, project readiness, and transit-oriented density characteristics. Applications scoring 7.5 to 10 points will be in the highest preference category and may be considered for immediate recommendation to the board, subject to underwriting review, staff review, availability of funds, and preparation of acceptable board materials. Applications scoring 5.5 to 7 points will not be rejected, but will be deferred for 3 months from the original submission date before becoming eligible for board consideration. If that deferral period ends after the application intake period closes, those applications will only be considered after higher preference applications have been evaluated and only if MIRP funds remain available. Applications scoring 5 points or less will be held until the close of the funding round and will only be considered after all higher preference applications have been evaluated and if funds remain available. In all cases, a preference score does not guarantee an award, and any project moving forward will still need to complete underwriting and receive board approval. Staff recommends that the HHFDC Board of Directors approve the following. The commencement of the fiscal year 2027 mixed income rental project pilot program application cycle as described in the MIRP program overview as attached in Exhibit B, subject to the following provisions and conditions. Approval of the MIRP program does not obligate HHFDC to make an award to any applicant. Submission of a MIRP application shall not be construed as an indication or guarantee that an applicant will receive an award or any other funding from HHFDC. HHFDC may select, reject, defer, condition, or prioritize any applicant's request if HHFDC determines such action is in the best interest of the MIRP program, the RHRF, or the state of Hawaii. All awards are subject to the availability of MIRP funds. HHFDC is not obligated to approve or fund the full amount of any applicant's request. The actual form, amount, terms, and conditions of each award shall be The actual form, amount, terms and conditions of each award shall be determined by HHFDC and shall be subject to an underwriting review, negotiation between the applicant and HHFDC, and review and approval of all appropriate legal documentation by HHFDC and its legal counsel. Board approval of any MIRP award shall not constitute loan closing or final obligation of funds, and any award shall remain subject to completion of final underwriting, due diligence, environmental review, legal documentation, and satisfaction of all conditions established by HHFDC. The approval of each award and the disbursement of funds shall be subject to final approval by the governor of the state of Hawaii as applicable. Applicants shall agree to abide by all terms and conditions arising from the use of public funds. And HHFDC may modify, suspend, amend, or terminate the MIRP application cycle, funding procedures, timelines, evaluation criteria, or MIRP requirements as necessary to implement the MIRP program, protect state resources, and carry out the purposes of the mixed income sub-account. We are also recommending that the HHFDC Board of Directors approves the authorization of the Executive Director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this floor action.
Thank you.
That wasn't too fast.
Directors, do you have questions for staff? Yes, Director.
This is, program, it is a legislative initiative. Is it all rental? Does it include for sale? What's the? Is it?
So right now, I believe we're considering applications that are mixed,
Rentals.
but for our,
Rentals only, okay.
I have a question,
Sure.
so for regarding eligible project type, so it does indicate that. Rehab or adaptive reuse. Along with this new option, but for the first round. It's that. Rehabilitation is not eligible. Unless there's any.
so I believe the intention is that we would consider rehab as long as it's creating new rental units. So if, for example, the space was perhaps used commercially before,
Okay.
and then it is then rehab to create residential units, I believe that's the.
Well, probably that's pretty, yeah, it's not a doubt, that's not gonna.
We're
be
not
allowable
considering
first
for
round.
this pilot. Yes.
Any other questions, directors?
I just had a quick question. So does the scoring prioritize transit-oriented development projects? Because these projects, that's kind of the push behind that.
That's one of the criteria that's being considered
One
as
criteria.
part of the scoring.
Alright, again, is like weighted high, is it weighted low?
It's, give equal consideration to other priorities listed in RHR and statute.
And if you want, Director, we could have a separate discussion to go over the weights of the scoring criteria. That's
Yeah, if you guys just send it to me by email, I'd be interested.
There are no further questions, we have a motion on the floor, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Hear you, Scott? I think that was, did you get five, okay. Motion carries, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We are moving to the next agenda item, which is 3E. This is to approve an extension to the Hula Mini multifamily bond issuance and rental housing revolving fund letter of intent for the Kanaha Residences project located in Wailuku, Maui, TFP number 2-3-6-002-003. Ask for a motion. Do we have a motion? So moved. We do have a motion. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony for this agenda item? Any, okay, moving on to. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. I'm Lee Tata with the Finance Branch before agenda item 3E to approve the benefit assistance resident project. Awarding the partners, and developer specific development group. The project is located in Wailuku, Maui. The project will develop 212 affordable rental units for families on a fee simple site with long-term affordability maintained. Total development costs for the project are approximately 125 million. Some background, the board recently approved the project on July 10, 2025, which included HMMF bond financing, LIHTC awards, and approximately 47 million in RHF loan funds. The original HMMF bond issuance and RHF closing deadline was July 10.
Excuse me, we need to pause. We had a director step out, so we're not actually operating at the moment with a forum. So maybe this would, I would do it now. You okay?
Yeah.
Back on.
So the original HMMF bond issuance and RHF closing deadline is July 10th, 2026. In April 2026, the awardee formally requested an extension to both the HMMF and RHF deadlines. This request is solely for an extension of the closing deadline. No changes to the award are being presented at this time. The awardee is present to discuss any challenges and delays that have delayed closing and the need for additional time. But with this, staff recommends that the board approve the following: extend the deadline to issue HMMF bonds for the Aikanaha
Residence Project to June 18th, 2027, and extend the RHRF LOI deadline to June 18th, 2027. I authorize the executive directors to undertake all plans necessary to effectuate the purposes of this action. Thank you for your consideration, and Dave Michael from the Pacific Development Group is here, also Mark Hash. Sorry, Representative.
Good morning. Yeah, so what, did you want to offer legal information to the board about the request?
Well, we're really close to being on schedule. Sorry about my voice that's going out today. I think we're still on schedule for delivery of the project at the same timeline that we anticipated. Our budget looks about the same. We're just a little bit late getting started right now.
So the main driver for the request to extend is for permitting or?
For permitting. We are in for our second round of comments right now. We anticipate one more round.
This is with the county
Yes, County of Maui,
or the planning commission.
for the planning. For plan comments.
This is from the building.
Right.
From the building.
For the building permit, yes.
Directors, any further questions? For the developer, for staff? Okay, if not, all those in favor of the motions signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Right.
We have 5 ayes, so the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw their lips move.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
With that,
Bring in a constant set.
yeah.
Okay, so before we go on to the next agenda, item, I just want to ask,
Appreciate.
anybody need a break? Does anybody like a short break?
Yes, please.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna go ahead and take a short recess. About 5 minutes. We're gonna,
I mean, that's a big.
yeah.
Anyway.
All right, Mr. Chair.
We're calling the meeting back to order, and we're gonna now go to agenda item 3F. This is to approve the establishment of a ground lease with the County of Maui located at 34 Kulalani Drive, Kula, Maui, TMK number 2-3-002033. Do we have a motion? Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay. I'm going to present and then I'll ask for testimony.
Good morning, Chair Mackler and members of the board. My name is Kayla Valdez, and I am a housing compliance specialist in the Planning, Evaluation, and Compliance Branch for HHFDC. The action before you is to seek your approval for the establishment of a ground lease with the County of Maui located at 34 Kulalani Drive in Kula, Maui. The property is a 3-building project consisting of 2 identical 2-story structures with a garage and 1 1-story structure. In 1988, the Department of Health established a statewide housing plan for mental health consumers to provide community-based housing for individuals with severe mental illness. This property is part of the 28 residential properties originally acquired through the state's housing plan in partnership with DOH and Steadfast Housing. In 2018, all 28 properties were placed under a 20-year ground lease with DOH. However, this particular property has remained vacant and DOH was unable to utilize it in a timely manner. As a result, a lease amendment was executed on May 21st, 2026, formally removing this property from the DOH portfolio. The County of Maui has expressed strong interest in leasing this property. The proposed key terms of this lease is summarized in section 3C. I'd like to highlight the followings of the ground lease. The term will be for 30 years with its annual rent of $1,000. Its permitted use will be occupancy by community-based nonprofits or government agencies providing supportive housing and services for individuals with mental illness or domestic violence survivors. This property may additionally serve as interim housing for wildfire survivors as needed. The county is in discussions with several nonprofits who could potentially operate the property. Per section 6 of the ground lease, any sublease requires written approval from HHFDC. This gives the corporation full oversight of all future subleases selected by the county. Staff respectfully recommends the approval to execute a lease with the County of Maui and authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this action. I would also like to add that we have Alicia Menzingo from the Housing and Community Development Division from the County of Maui present on Zoom today to answer any questions that you may have regarding as their role as lessee. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to offer testimony for this agenda item? Seeing none, perhaps we could ask Ms. Benzingo to I see her.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Hi, I'm here.
Would you like to, is there anything you'd like to share with the board about the?
I think Kayla did a great job summarizing all the details. We're excited to potentially lease the property, and there's definitely a need for services and potential use for the partners that we're looking at in the county.
Yes, we have a question, Director Evans.
Thank you, Alicia. Since apparently the property has been vacant, is the county willing to lease it on a as-is basis and undertake any improvements that might be needed to make it suitable for the uses you've outlined?
Yes, I believe that is the case. I would need to confirm details with our managing director, but my understanding is that we're willing to take it as is and support any redevelopment that's needed with the nonprofits.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre.
Okay, you're welcome. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
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 Did we get 5?
She needs to say it.
Oh,
Can you say it one more time, Sean?
Director.
Aye, sorry, Mr. Buck.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, we got it. So we have 5 ayes, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going on to item 3G. This is to approve. One, the dwelling unit revolving fund budget of up to 5 million for pre-development expenses. And two, activities relating to lethal development for the East Kapolei Transit Oriented Development Project located in Teva, Oahu, Hawaii. TNP numbers 9-1-016-008, 9-1-017-016, 097, 098, 099, 163, 193. Get that? And 9-1-018, 008, 014, and 05. Lullakai Parkway right of way and Farrington Highway. Oh, no move. Oh, okay. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, thank you. Why don't you go ahead and present and then I'll ask for testimony.
Thank you and good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Peter Wood, Project Manager, Development Section. I assisted in the preparation of this for action. This for action is to request board's approval of a dwelling unit revolving fund budget of up to 5 million to support pre-development activities for the East Kapolei Transit Oriented Development Project, as well as to authorize HHFDC to undertake applicable activities for the planning, development, acquisition, and other activities deemed necessary by the Executive Director for the project. For your background, the Department of Land and Natural Resources, or DLNR, proposed the development of the parcels near Keone Station in Kapolei for a transit-oriented mixed-use development project. The project encompasses approximately 170 acres and is divided into 3 development areas: Keone Station area, Kolakai Parkway East, and Kolakai Parkway West. The current DLNR master plan proposes up to 1,000 residential rental units. The draft environmental impact statement, or the EIS, for the project was published in the July 23rd, 2025 edition of the environmental notice. Then the state legislature passed House Concurrent Resolution number 85 HD1 on April 27, 2026, urging the DLNR to transfer the project parcels to HHFDC and urging HHFDC to partner with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and the Hawaii Community Development Authority, or HCDA, to lead the planning and to advance the project development. Due to its core housing-related mission, relevant expertise, established partnership with HCDA for infrastructure and mixed-use development, and its financing capabilities, including the dwelling unit revolving fund that may be used for infrastructure and pre-development expenses. HCDA is completing an infrastructure master plan for the East Kapolei TOD areas and will be preparing an EIS for the infrastructure master plan. The Honolulu City Council introduced Bills 38 and 39 on May 14, 2026 to expand the TOD Special District Ordinance to include 3 additional rail transit station areas within the East Kapolei Neighborhood TOD plan, and to change the zoning of approximately 1,400 acres of the land in Eva, including the project area, to align with the TOD Special District. The transfer of responsibility for the project to HHFDC present an opportunity to reevaluate the master planning strategies for the project to increase housing development density from a long-term perspective. Memorandums of agreement or similar documents with various stakeholders will be necessary for the master planning effort. As of May 31st, 2026, the adjusted DERF net available cash balance is approximately 34 million. Staff recommendation is that the board approve this for action and authorize the executive director to undertake all actions necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action, subject to the availability of funds,
the release of fund by the governor and compliance with all laws, rules, regulations, and other terms and conditions as may be required by the executive director. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the public would like to give testimony? If not, directors, questions? Okay.
I'm certainly in strong support of receiving the ability to DoD housing to operate. But I do recall that DLNR had some concerns. There was a portion of their property they wanted to use for industrial uses in order to generate revenue programs. Does this board action allow the possibility of allowing DLNR to retain that portion that they designated for industrial?
Yes, so we have been coordinating with DLNR and they have expressed that concern as well. So what we agreed to do is we will retain that alternative to allow industrial use. And we will also have another alternative that consider a mix of industrial and potential of housing if we need more density on that parcel. And they agreed.
With revenues going to DLNR?
Yes.
You're welcome. So question for Dean is, this is the first DoD project that is along a station or main station that is moving forward, that can move forward?
We have a state to the area.
Yes.
One as large as this, yes, I mean, it's about the same size as the stadium district.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yes, it's a substantial undertaking. The state has other lands along the rail line, but not many with this amount of contiguous land area that is available for development.
Like you see, it is substantial with the number of potential residential units that can be generated. So, great to see it on the agenda today. So any other questions from? Okay, if not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all five affirmatives, the motion carries. Takes us to item 3H on the agenda, this is to approve, one, the certification of Cardinal, I believe it's Waikiki Beach LLC or other successor entity approved by the executive director as an eligible director, developer pursuant to section 15-307-24 Hawaii Administrative Rules. And two, a dwelling unit revolving fund interim loan for the Cardinal Waikiki Affordable Rental Project located in Waikiki, Oahu, Hawaii, TMK number 12-6-028-029. Motion to approve?
Okay, so moved.
We have a motion. Does anyone want to second that? You have a second. Okay, let me ask for public testimony now. Is there anyone in the public who would like to give testimony? Yourself. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Mackler and members of the board. I am Chris Sadayasu, a project manager in the development branch, and I'm here to present this agenda item 3H, which seeks approval of a dwelling unit revolving fund interim loan for the Cardinal Waikiki affordable rental project. Thank you for the correction. It is Cardinal Waikiki Beach LLC as the applicant, and they submitted an application for the DERF interim loan to partially finance the construction of the Cardinal Waikiki project, a new 32-unit affordable rental project. After reviewing the application with the HHFDC staff, the applicant submitted a revised application requesting a DERF interim loan of up to $5 million. The applicant owns the land located at 2533 Kaneloa Road in Honolulu and Waikiki in this Waikiki Special District Apartment Precinct. The applicant is a joint venture between Center Urban Real Estate Hawaii LLC and Watt Capital Partners Inc. and is embarking on their first affordable housing development project in Hawaii. The Watt Companies, the parent organization of Watt Capital Partners, Inc., has a $70 billion development portfolio. And Center Urban brings over 20 years of development, investment, and operating experience here. Pursuant to Chapter 32 of the revised ordinances of Honolulu governing the city and county of Honolulu's housing incentive program, the applicant proposes a 30-year affordability commitment for the project. HHFDC granted the project an exemption from preparing an environmental assessment, concluding the project is not anticipated to have significant environmental effects. Additionally, a phase 1 environmental site assessment was prepared, and the ESA did not identify any recognized environmental conditions and did not recommend investigation. The applicant has presented the project at the Waikiki Neighborhood Board number 9 meeting in November 2025, and the board voted to support the project in concept. The project's proposed milestones, financing structure, and budget are presented in sections 3H, I, and J of the 4 action. This DERF loan will be in second position. The applicant provided evidence of project readiness by submitting a senior loan commitment from American Savings Bank, obtaining required city permits to proceed with construction, and finalizing the selection of a general contractor for the construction contract. An appraisal report dated March 9, 2026 supports a market value of $15,325,000. The loan to value ratio of the requested DERF loan represents 28.4% of the project budget. An updated appraisal report will be required prior to closing, showing a value of not less than the project budget. This 4 action seeks the following terms for the DERF interim loan for the project. Borrower is the applicant or other successor entity approved by the executive director. Up to $5 million, inclusive of fee amounts and interest reserve, made available on a drawdown basis. Form of loan is a second mortgage, non-recourse loan secured by the property or other collateral acceptable by HHFDC. Interest is 3% per annum, compounded monthly. Loan term is 3 years or is otherwise extended by the executive director. Repayment, principal, and accrued interest due upon maturity. No payments required during the term and no prepayment penalty. 1% of the total loan amount is origination fee payable on closing. Admin fee is $1,000 per unit payable upon closing. Contingencies, there shall be no expansion of the senior loan without HHFDC's approval. The DERF loan is subject to availability of land use restriction covenants. Developer shall comply with affordability restrictions for the project as recorded in a DLURC, Declaration of Land Use Restricted Covenants. Project shall be affordable for no less than 30 years. Title insurance, the borrower shall provide HHFDC and Alta lenders policy of title insurance with a mechanics lien endorsement issued by title insurer acceptable to HHF. Pre-closing conditions, recordation of the DLURC. Loan closing will be contingent upon closing of all other debt required to fully fund the project unless otherwise approved by the executive director and a loan takeout plan satisfactory to HHFDC. Applicant has indicated they plan to apply for funds for the permanent financing from HHFDC's Mixed Income Rental Program, which is scheduled to be available in Q4 of 2026. Loan closing will be contingent upon such award or other permanent takeout plan satisfactory to HHFDC. Submittal of a current appraisal, as mentioned earlier, with the value at the project budget. The receipt of all requisite permits will be a pre-funding condition. Other terms is the applicant's overhead, project management, developer fees shall not be paid from the DERF loan, and other terms and conditions set forth in the DERF loan document. Recommendation is that the HHFDC Board of Directors approve the following. The applicant or other successor entity approved by the executive director as an eligible developer pursuant to HAR section 15-307-24. A DERF interim loan of $5 million to the applicant for the benefit of the project, subject to the following: collateral acceptable to HHFDC. Loan terms as described in this for action, including but not limited to the contingencies and pre-closing conditions, unless otherwise modified by the executive director. Execution of loan documents satisfactory to HHFDC, which will include conditions to be satisfied prior to closing, satisfactory to HHFDC. Compliance with all laws, rules, regulations, and such other terms and conditions as may be required by the executive director. Availability of DERF funds and authorization and approval by the governor for the release of such funds. And then authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes. Here with us this morning is Martin Nguyen and his team with the Cardinal Waikiki Beach LLC, who will be making a presentation regarding this project. Then we will be available to answer questions after the presentation. Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Homer.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Good morning, aloha, chair, members of the board. My name is Martin Nguyen. I'm a principal at Center Urban Real Estate. With me today is Tony Wong Kam. He runs our property management division, as well as our summer intern, Holly Rader, who is also a member of the Honolulu Youth Commission. Thank you so much for the time this morning to present our project. On behalf of Center Urban Real Estate and Watt Capital Partners, we really appreciate the consideration here. And while the partnership is mainland based, I'm proud to say I'm a proud local boy, public school, UH grad, and just grateful to be able to come back home and help make a dent in the housing crisis together. As Chris mentioned, Center Urban and Watt have quite a bit of history, mostly on the West Coast, specifically Southern California. Specifically, Watt's history goes back to the late 1940s. They built homes for returning veterans for the war. And really, that's the spirit in which we're hoping to be able to continue here in Honolulu. It's being able to address the housing crisis in an efficient way for folks who really need it. Rounding out the team is Hierarchy LLP, our architect and design team lead. If in case you're not familiar with any of their projects, one is right outside the door at Keho Lane, which is a good precedent for mid-rise, precast, workforce housing rentals. So you're probably wondering, why Cardinal? What's up with this Cardinal thing? We've dubbed this our strategy to try and address the housing crisis. Cardinal comes from the Latin word for a hinge. Without a hinge, a door can't operate, and that it eventually came to mean something very important. Cardinal, very, very important. And that's what we see as this type of housing here. It's cardinal, it's important. And this entire strategy really, we built it off of three principles: efficiency, speed, and fiscal sustainability. We'll talk through the first two as we go through the project itself, but the third, I really want to emphasize, why we're grateful to be able to even have the opportunity to present to you folks. We're not LIHTC developers, so this is a new experience for us. But what we've been trying to figure out is how do we get a long-term hold and a long-term sustainable capital stack without losing so much on public subsidies, but at the same time, it allows for a slice of private capital that is long-term. Typical private capital, you need to realize a return. That usually means you have to sell your completed project within 5 years. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to build a project for the long term. Rather than you build something with a 5-year mindset, then it looks like you built it with a 5-year mindset. So that leads us to the first of hopefully many Cardinal projects, which is Cardinal O Waikiki. I imagine I don't have to explain where Waikiki is, but it is on the Diamond Head side, over by the zoo. If we zoom in over here, it is if you start from Kuhio, right over by Walls, you head over one street Eva side, that is Pao-Kalani. You start going a block Mauka, you pass Kuhio, and there is an empty lot, and that is the project site. It's been an empty lot for at least as long as I can remember it. But we acquired this parcel back in October of 2024 and had started the design and permitting process then. And happy to report that we've made substantial progress with DPP. Back in February of this year, we were approved for the special assignment inspection permit, which allowed us to effectively start construction. And we received word last week that the civil engineering branch signed off on their final sign off, and we anticipate full building permits really any day now. But the project itself, as Chris mentioned, is 32 units, 24 are one bedrooms, 3 are 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Excuse me, 5 are 2 bedroom, 1 baths, and 3 are 2 bedroom, 1.5 baths. It's 6 stories, 60 feet height with an elevator, and 6 on-site parking stalls, including an ADA stall and loading area. As you can imagine, the site's pretty tight. It's about it's just under 6,500 square feet. Urban infill site, of course, in Waikiki, and it seems like one of the few blocks that still don't have a sidewalk. But we're hoping to be able to change that. You can see over here that this the rough layout for the ground floor and upper levels. Going to the first principle of our cardinal strategy, efficiency, you know, I think we really took inspiration from the concept of a Liberty ship. You know, this country built 2,700 Liberty ships during World War II, and that's 3 ships every 2 days. And it's really because of standardization, simple design, and repeatable forms. And you can see really, you know, with our 1 bedrooms, very repeatable forms. Really, the only thing that differs from a pattern are the 2 bedrooms, which naturally go on the ends of the units, naturally, so that it allows more light. But that's really the whole concept, that we want to anything that can't be standardized, that can't have repeatable models or concepts. Let's get rid of it. And let's see what we can do to get costs down. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we're going to put out a bad product. You can see our 1 bedrooms are about 400 square feet. The 2 bedrooms, this is an example of the 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, is just about 650 square feet, I believe. Oh, 776, excuse me. So a little bit larger. I'm not giving myself enough credit here. But the idea is we want units for both families to be able to live in Waikiki, but also for young folks, you know, for the assistant managers, for the servers, for the workers at Jefferson Elementary School, to be able to live in Waikiki and not have to drive an hour from the west side just to go to work. Here's an updated rendering of the project itself with the landscaping, as well as interior concept design of what one of the 1 bedrooms would look like. As you can see, again, going back to the concept of efficiency, you know, it's 400 square feet, so it's tight for a 1 bedroom, but the whole concept of the design is being able to build in, you know, these shoji style doors, so you have flexibility to live it like a studio if you wanted to live it like a studio, or live it like a 1 bedroom if you wanted to live it like a 1 bedroom. But all of the units are, you know, standard 30-foot depths, you know, going back to the whole Liberty ship models, and going to the speed aspect, the construction method is precast concrete. This is actually a picture of Keoho Lane down the street, which is a precast concrete building. It's cast on the west side, trucked in, and stuck, essentially put up like Lincoln logs. So that in addition to, you know, leaning on
by rights entitlements. We're not going and seeking 201H exemptions from city council. We're building, so we're only looking at projects really that we can go in and immediately go for building permits. And once we get the building permits, we want to be able to build it quickly. The time frame to from start to finish for construction for a six-story building like this, we're currently at about 12 to 14 months. So just a rough summary, we mentioned we acquired it in 2024. We submitted for building permits in January 2025 and completed the SHIP-D archaeological inventory survey with no findings and got the clearance letter in August of 25. November, we presented to the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. We presented this project as well as our hopeful second Cardinal project that we're working with the DHLM team over in the city and county on the other side of Waikiki. The idea here is that those would hopefully be twin projects, bookending the ends of Waikiki. But going into February, we submitted our initial DERF application in February. That's when we started the process with Executive Director Vinakami and his team and received the SAI permit in later that month. We received the Chapter 343 EA exemption in May, and here we are today in June. On our end, we're really ready to go. We want to make sure that obviously HHFDC and you folks get as comfortable as possible with the terms of the financing. Our understanding is that we would apply for the MIRP program, and that would be the takeout source for the DERF loan. But really, once we get all of that lined up and we're ready to close, do the financial closing, we can get started with construction next month. But again, thank you for your time and consideration. I did want to say a big thank you to Albert, Chris, and Dean. They were very patient with us, obviously not being tech developers and walking us through the process. But I'll open up for questions.
Hey, directors, question.
I think this is a great project. It's in Waikiki. Waikiki is pretty much at sea level, and Waikiki experiences groundwater pollution during king tides, full moons, and although this is set nicely back from the shoreline, so we're not talking about wave erosion. A new project like this, you have provisions for moving some of your critical infrastructure.
Absolutely, and that was a significant consideration of ours as well. One of the first things we did was a topographical survey and do a geotechnical analysis. At least where the site sits right now, it is about, I believe it's a 5-foot base flood elevation. But the site is elevated 5 feet. Actually, it's probably more like 4 3/4 feet above sea level. So most of the finished grade, including the ground floor parking, is just above the base flood elevation. But not to say that even if we could build a residential floor area on the ground floor, we said, okay, maybe we want to be cautious. That's why we elevated one more floor and had parking on the ground floor. That's not to say that there's still utility rooms, the pump room is still there, but we've worked quite closely with DPP and Honolulu Fire Department on getting them comfortable with flood risks, as well as what happens if the power goes out and can the pump still operate and whatnot. So we've it's intimately in our minds that we want to be able to build a project that's resilient to that in the long term.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions, directors?
I just have a quick question, comment, is I really like this project. It's zoning by right. It's it's easy. You guys are trying to innovate. You're trying to discover new things. If this works, other people can learn from these experiences. It's done relatively quickly. We should think about this as cost-effective model going forward, rather than trying to over engineer every single project at the state level ahead of time. It's great to see the state setting like certain parameters and then innovative developers coming in and experimenting and fitting the bill.
A quick question about the RHRF, the VERP. Is there a minimum affordability period associated with that? Okay. And I'm asking that only because I saw in the fore action that you're looking at 30 minimum. But I think there's a longer for the regular RHRF, it's 25. And I just want to call that to, if it is that longer, I want to call that to your attention.
No, absolutely. And I don't want to speak for executive director or staff, but we've actually been working and speaking with Mike Doyle specifically on this. Obviously a big consideration is when can we get financial closing, right? And I know I don't want to rush their process. I know they have a lot of stuff to review with LIHTC and RHRF approvals, but my understanding is their guidelines is 5 years. The affordability period has to be 5 years plus the term of the MIRP. So if the MIRP term is 30 years, it would be 35 years affordability. Our understanding, at least how we're trying to back into the process or the underwriting for MIRP, is that we were normally familiar with the concept of a balloon payment. At maturity, there's whatever is left of the interest and principal is paid back at that time. I believe the guidance to us is that the MIRP ideally is paid back through the entirety of the term. And the project is tight. So I think we need to find the balance between being able to provide a reasonable return to equity, but also not drawing so much cost that even if it was a theoretical sale, we need to be able to pay everybody back. So our underwriting right now is about 39 to 40 years to pay back the MIRP at a 2% interest rate through cash flow alone. That would leave a zero principal balance in year 40. So that would require a 45-year affordability period. So we have been speaking about having a tiered affordability period. So we have 15 years already based for the city and county's affordability requirements. We have an additional 15 years for the DERF affordability requirements. And then perhaps we were thinking about another 15 years for the MIRP affordability requirements. But at each stage, it somewhat steps up, so it opens up more cash flow to hopefully pay back the MIRP a little quicker. So we've been noodling it. We've been trying to crack the code and try to make this thing happen.
Mr. Lynn said it is correct. The minimum term is 5 years plus that fee term. There are additional points in the application that they commit to a longer period.
For checking and all those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
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 Thank you. We have 5 ayes, motion carries. Good luck to you for the project.
Thank you folks very much.
Okay, let's to item 3I. Which is to approve an additional amendment to the dwelling unit revolving fund equity pilot program allocation and quantity of designated dwelling unit, units for the Kuile Place housing project located at 2599 Kapiolani Boulevard, Honolulu, Hawaii. PMK numbers 2-7-00-022, 011, 015, and 031 and 049. Is there a motion? We have a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony? Hearing none, we'll turn it over. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, morning, board members. Laura Kwefani with the real estate services section. Before I start, I wanted to call attention to a duplicate statement that's in section 4 of this board action. In the recommendation, item D should be stricken. Both items B and D are the same. The disparate action seeks approval for an additional DEP program allocation of $516,500 for 5 additional 2-bedroom, 1-bath designated DEP units. HHFDC's equity in these units are $103,300, or approximately 15 to 16% of the developer's sales price. The purpose of the DEP program is to assist qualified purchasers attain home ownership. HHFDC allocates its funds to purchase a percentage of the developer's sales price in designated starter units in the project to reduce the qualified purchaser's loan amount to purchase a designated DEP unit. Act 92 Sessions Law of Hawaii 2023 authorized the HHFDC to purchase equity in approved housing development projects, now codified as Hawaii Administrative Rules, Chapter 15-309. Persons interested in purchasing a designated DEP unit must meet program criteria such as own no other real estate property, receive no gift funds for purchase of the DEP unit, works in a profession that is facing a shortage as determined by the corporation, such as healthcare workers, law enforcement officers, staff at correctional facilities, agricultural field workers, and designated city and county Honolulu positions. And lastly, in this particular project, the Kuilei project, meet income and eligibility requirements for affordable for sale program units that the DP program is applied to. In section 2, items A through C, a summary of the DEP approvals made for this project starting from February of 2024 through September 9, 2025 is explained and is also reflected as an overall award in section 3C together with this request for additional funding and units. The staff considers this project as a success of the DEP program, a new program that's targeted specifically for the shortage professional group as a result of the dedicated marketing campaign and effort by the developer and sales team. In May of this year, Senate Bill 2026 was approved and forwarded to the governor for approval. This Senate bill amends Act 92 by extending the DP sunset date by 5 years to 2031 and appropriating an additional $10 million to the program budget. More significantly, however, it requires the DP program be applied only to projects located in certain areas. For Oahu, it's in TOD areas only, and on the neighbor islands within half a mile from a bus stop. This Kuilei project is directly impacted by the elimination of future unit and funding allocations because it is not located in a TOD zone. As a result, staff proposes an increase in funds for additional units based on the availability of DP funding. And as indicated in section 3C, the DP funding balance as of May 31st is $2.4 million. With an allocation for 5 units in the amount of $516,500, the remaining DP balance after the allocation would be $1.9 million. Recommendation is made that the board approve an increase in the quantity and allocation of DP funds for 5 units at an amount of $516,500 to provide opportunities for interested and qualified purchasers to enter into home ownership and to authorize the executive director to take all actions necessary to effectuate the purposes of this branch. I'm available for any questions.
Directors, do you have any? I do have a question. This is related to the extension of the program through the Senate bill and tying it to TOD project locations. We, in the foreseeable future, have projects that are going to be able to take the BP program in those few spots. I was speaking on a long, able to take those funds.
We have one project that the board approved, that's the Waiakoa project, which is located in Kakako.
But beyond that, do we have anything?
Beyond that, I'm not sure. There's nothing that I'm aware of.
Because what, thinking about that and looking at potential impact, it really kind of becomes a regulatory barrier for projects that are outside of TOD on Oahu that could utilize the program. So, my thought about it is to see if there's a way to find a legislative fix in the next session to maybe either put a preference for TOD or some other way to not foreclose it from TOD, but to also allow it to be utilized in non-TOD areas so that people that could take this program have opportunities for their entry-level home ownership.
So we will work on that. We did propose to make the program permanent. And the restriction to limit it to TOD areas came in very late in conference committee, so it wasn't something that we didn't propose this and we didn't have very little time to react to.
Okay, well, have some time between now and the next session too. Okay, I'm gonna call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that's 5 ayes, the motion does carry, and I guess you're gonna be here for two.
One more.
One more? Oh, okay. Let's go to 3J. This is to approve, one, the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation's purchase of equity in designated 2-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom units within the Kuile Place Housing Project located at 2599 Kapiolani Boulevard, Honolulu, Hawaii. TMK numbers 1-7-022, 011, 015, and 031 and 049, and 2, set aside additional dwelling unit revolving fund equity pilot program funds for the project. Have a motion? So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony for this agenda item? I don't hear anyone, so we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This for action seeks approval for additional units in the same Kuile Place project. In this particular case, we're asking to add 11 unsold affordable 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath units and set aside DP funds for these. This particular set of units have not been included as in consideration for designated DP units, and so therefore it is a separate action that's being requested to add to the total for the Kuile Place project. So the Kuile Place project is a residential high-rise condominium comprised of a total 1,005 for sale units of a mix of 40% market units and 60% affordable units. Sales offerings began in February 2023. Shortly after that, in May 2023 is when the DEP program was approved. And it was really to address the unmet need in for sale affordable housing. In May of 2026, Senate Bill 2069 was adopted in committee hearing and forwarded to the governor for approval, which brings us here today to request that these 11 2-bedroom, bath and a half units be approved. In this particular case, these two-bedroom, 1.5 bath units will have an equity amount of 10% of the developer's sales price, ranging from 69,700 to 70,400 of HHFDC's equity. for a total of 771,000. If approved, and the units are sold, it would close out the sale of the affordable units for the project. As a new set of DP units, these units will be subject to an initial offering period of 30 days, specifically for the DEP targeted group. After the 30-day period expires, the units may be sold to any qualified resident fund. However, priority shall be given to qualified purchasers under the DEP program. With the previous approval, the DEP balance would result in $1.1 million, which would have the opportunity for other projects to be also approved under this DEP. Request is made that the board approve this for action for 11 designated 2-bedroom, 1.5-bath units at 10% of the original purchase price and an allocated amount of $771,200, and to authorize the executive director to take all necessary actions to effectuate the purposes of this branch.
Lorna, are there any questions? All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 5 ayes, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're now on agenda item 3K. I do want to let the directors know that I need to declare a conflict of interest because part of this for action is to approve funding for the Lima Ola Workforce Housing Development Project, and that is the project that's being developed by the Kauai Housing Development Corporation, and I serve on that board as a volunteer. So what I'd like to suggest is that we take this agenda item, and by the way, with my recusal, we don't have enough to give it our quorum status today to.
Could we ask the deputy AG if can vote on this matter, given that you're an unpaid volunteer?
I would prefer just to include the conflict of interest. We've had a little sidebar already. So what I'd like to do is amend the for action to only specifically to the second item. So this would be to approve an amendment of the dwelling unit revolving fund equity pilot program allocation and quantity of designated DEP units for number 2 of Ka'ulu by Gentry Housing Development located in the Hawaii Community Development Authority's Kalailoa Community Development District, Kapolei, Oahu, TMK numbers 9-1-013-197, 198, and 199. So with that, I would like to ask for a motion to approve as amended.
So moved. And just just to clarify, Chair, that your conflict is not an issue with this piece of us.
Correct. That is correct.
Removing what you might have a conflict with in
Yes.
in this motion.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, we have a second. Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to give testimony? Okay, hearing none. Turn over.
Okay. Aloha, Chair Mackler and members of the board. My name is Lorene Kabebehi, Housing Sales Coordinator Supervisor in the Real Estate Services section. This amended for action seeks the additional allocation of DEP program funds for the Ka'ulu by Gentry Housing Development located in HCDA's Kalailoa Community Development District in Kapolei, Oahu. The Ka'ulu by Gentry development is a planned 390-unit community located on 30 acres within HCDA's Kalailoa Development District. The development offers 2- and 3-bedroom townhouse units at market and affordable rate prices with affordable units subject to HCDA's reserved housing program. As indicated in section 3B of the for action, in September 2025, this board also approved $247,000 from DERF for 4 units at Ka'ulu by Gentry. Staff is proposing an additional allocation of 4 units and funding of $288,000 that will bring the total allocation of DEP units and funds for the Ka'ulu by Gentry development to 8 units and $535,000. With the legislative approval of Senate Bill 2069 to extend the DEP program sunset date, increase funding to 20 million, and limits on location of the housing development projects only to TOD zones on Oahu and within a half-mile of a bus stop on other islands, upon enactment, the Ka'ulu by Gentry development will not be eligible for additional units to participate in the DEP program. I wasn't able to calculate it right off the top of my head, but if approved, the allocation, I won't even say what it is gonna be, but the recommendation is made that the board approve an increase in the quantity and allocation of DEP funds for the Ka'ulu by Gentry housing development for up to 4 additional designated DEP program units in the sum not to exceed $288,000, subject to availability of funds, and that the executive director be authorized to take all actions necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action. Happy. Do you have
Questions,
any
directors?
questions?
I sit on the board for the HCDA and on behalf of the director. Therefore, I want to share that that I did vote for the Ka'ulu project. You know, when it came before the HCDA board, but I do not have any stock in Gentry.
Please
May
note
I-
that
may I-
for the record.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Any questions?
No questions? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 I
Hi.
Okay, that is 5 ayes, the motion carries. Thank you. And
Lima Ola is within a half mile of a bus stop.
so if you could bring that back, maybe we'll have we'll have more directors present and we can get that one considered at the next meeting.
If the governor signs the bill, it's the effective date for the POD restriction. 26 July.
Signature.
Should not affect,
But it wouldn't.
given its proximity to the transit.
Yeah.
So the effective date is July 1st, 26.
It's upon a signature.
Oh, possibly or later. Okay.
Okay, Dean, it's your turn. We're going to section 4. This is the report by the executive director.
Just a few things to base the board on, for the combined mortgage program, we are picking up the speed on the program, and the online reservations or closings as of yesterday. So quite good progress. And a couple of months ago, we were worried about getting more reservations, and now we are coming in. And about $12.5 million, roughly $30 million funds issue has been there. So in fact, we're doing so well that we may need to temporarily finance mortgages out of the indenture. So there'll be a full action coming to the board requesting authority to use the indenture funds to temporarily finance mortgages. And we're working with our bond counsel to look at the timing of the next tranche of bonds to be issued to finance the program. And also want to note that the legislature is continuing work on what's called the Speed Task Force, which is the Simplifying Permitting and Enhanced Economic Development Task Force, something that Director Evans is very familiar with. The intent is to allow projects such as housing projects to move quicker, primarily through identifying barriers to building capital improvement projects, including housing projects. HHFDC will become participating in the Water and Wells Permitted Interaction Group and the District Boundary Amendment. from the interaction group. Last, just want to note that the Nani Ikiola had its groundbreaking on June 4th. This was a project by Self Help Housing of Hawaii, where they're providing, I believe it's 82 single-family units to households at 80% AMI below. So it's a fantastic program that they have. It's only through programs like Self Help Housing where they can offer single-family homeownership opportunities to this, these households. So it's very good to see them get to the finish line and start construction.
Thank you, Dean. Brings us to adjournment. Seth, you want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, directors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Fine.